Welcome to the Contact Center Gurus, the podcast for contact center and customer experience leaders. Learn best practices, new technology, tips and tricks, and more. Listen in.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Contact Center Gurus podcast, and I'm your co-host, Jessica Voss.
I'm Rob Enslow. Welcome to the show. Today we have a very special guest, Mark. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself first.
Sure. Well, thank you, Rob and Jessica, for having me on your show here. A little bit about me. I started in the call center industry on December 10th of 2007 as a regular agent taking calls. And then
wow,
slowly,
you know the exact date. That is amazing, Mark. Best memory ever.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, fine. From there, taking calls, and that was actually my first real job here in the United States.
Wow.
When I came here. And from there, it's slowly moved on to training agents on how to do what I did as they came into the call center. And I took it on and I understood it as these folks are coming in and they need to learn how to do this job in order to make a living. And that's kind of like a motto that I've carried on onto where I am today. As soon as I got into the trainer's role, I started developing a lot of their training material, presentations, removing a lot of their long-ended manuals and converting them into easy to understand presentations for an agent to quickly look through and understand what they needed to do. From there on, I moved on to the role of a team lead. Then I left that call center, moved on to become a supervisor at another call center. And that brings me to the current role which I'm in, which is the call center trainer and also an on-site supervisor for the company Briljent. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah.
Yeah, you have a plethora of experience in the contact center world. Where are you located?
I'm currently located in Indianapolis, Indiana right now.
Okay. How's the weather right now? Is it cold?
It is cold, but the sun's shining, so it's good. I'm happy that it's shining bright. That's great.
Love it. So today, folks, we are going to talk about reducing turnaround time to uptrain agents with microlearning. Now, for those who don't know what microlearning is, we do have the expert online, Mark. So can you describe what is microlearning?
Well, microlearnings are what I like to term as short bursts of information provided, and usually it covers a single topic or process, again, in a short duration. Now, these pieces of information or trainings can range between 5 to 7 minutes. Now, this is at a slow reader's pace. Someone who wants to look to the information, look at it again, back and forth. And the agent this agent who gets this microlearning course, they can go back to these microlearning courses by either navigating through the intranet site that we have at our call center or even to their email. You see, in call centers, we can't afford to pull agents off the calls to train them on a new policy and process, but still, you still need to have that information to them, because what's good customer service if the agent doesn't know what they need to do for the caller, right?
Right, exactly.
So that's why we created these micro-learning courses, so that we can send the necessary information in a small chunk to the agent on the flow, and they can review this information either between calls or on a call when that call arises, or even during low call volumes. And again, these pieces of information are meant to be short, to the point, and without all that fluff. Because, sometimes we have training material, they talk about the history and why is it so important and all of these different things, but the agent doesn't need that in order to do the job. I haven't heard in the call center when I used to take calls, could you tell me the history about why this program came into existence? Never heard that. But yet we have call centers today that have at least a minimum of 4 to 5 pages of just wanting to know the history about this program, which again is overwhelming your trainee.
Plus retaining that information. I know myself, I need quick, precise information. I need microlearning. I feel like it's not just, in the contact center world or contact center agents. I think it's all of us. Our days are so busy, and the way I learn is hands-on and also, short trainings. If it's more than, 30 minutes, I'm kind of zoning out.
Yeah.
And I feel like I don't retain it when I start zoning out.
Definitely.
And it's not just you, it's everyone, because we're always on our technology. Either we're getting bombarded with advertisements when we drive down the road, or it's on our cell phones. So we want information that's quick.
Yeah, I think the most effective marketing are just the little short blips of, hey, here's 30 seconds, or here's 5 ways to do whatever. And, for me, I truly believe that, education is meant to teach you how to teach yourself. That's the one purpose of education, from my perspective. How many of us read books after we graduate? How many books have you read since then? If you can't explain something to me, you don't understand it. Mm-hmm. So that's the true definition of learning too, for me, is, okay, if you know something, you can explain it to somebody else. So I guess with that in mind, Mark, how do you create these microlearning courses?
Before that, Rob, I just wanted to touch on about these microlearning courses. I know I mentioned it's about 5 to 7 minutes long per the standard of a very slow reader. But we are using Microsoft Sway, which kind of gives us some of the analytics behind how long it would take an average call center agent to complete these Sway documents. And we're getting the information across to agents between 2 to 3 minutes. So let me go on to how do we create these microlearning courses. So initially, when we started them off, I was just kind of trying to see if this would actually work. And I created it in a Word document, which I converted it into PDF and sent it out to the agents via email. Then we started learning about Microsoft Sway, which was more of an engaging platform, as well as very visually pleasing to the agent. We would send a link out, kind of like a nice, pretty looking link in an email, which we could track using kind of like a read receipt. So we would understand if the agent has actually clicked on it, because a lot of trainings, we kind of send them out, we spend so much time to create them, and we need agents to understand it. And we send it out and we don't know whether the agent has actually read it or knows about the information.
Smart links is what they're called. Yeah.
And when these Sway documents open out, it opens out in the agent's browser. It opens up to a very brief introduction to the training, which is about maybe 3 or 4 lines, followed by the purpose of the training. Then we get into more of the meat and potatoes, which covers either the process, the flow, or any other important information before going into the steps. Usually, if it's system-based training, such as adding a new panel, we embed a video demonstration covering the navigational steps and its functionality.
That's fascinating. Yeah, so I'm just thinking of myself. I'm like, I need to start doing this. It's very, very powerful and effective. So another question I had was, how do you know that the agent understands the training?
Oh, that's a good question there, Jessica. So you're right. It's something really important. So what we've done, so if the training material is critical, so we need to know that the agent has understood the information, not only just read the information, because you could read a document and then come back out, as Rob mentioned, you have no clue exactly what you read. So we add a quiz at the end of the training. The agent, after they review through, they click that link They're directed to a website where they answer a set of questions. If they provide the incorrect response, the quiz will provide them feedback. So when they complete this course, the agent walks away with the required information, again, in the shortest period of time, versus pulling the agent off the phone and dealing with all of those workforce management things. And, you're bothered about, will the agent, while they're walking to the training room, will they go to the restroom and this and that? Will the agent get stuck on a call? All those different things. It's a lot less complicated, at least.
For those of our listeners who are maybe thinking to explore and even create some of these microlearnings themselves, are they expensive to create?
Now, they could be if you created one using, let's say, for example, Articulate Storyline or Adobe Captivate, which are kind of like web-based designing software, and then housing them in a learning management system, also known as LMS, that tracks the enrollment, provides, tracks also the passing scores and all of those pieces of information. But I do need to mention that when you use these web training applications to create these courses and embed them into an LMS, it does take time and it is costly. But if you want to take it the other route, something simple and gets the job done, what I use is I create a Word document, convert it to Sway, do a little tweaking here and there, add a quiz at the end, as I mentioned before, and then send it over to the call center leadership team so that they can take a look at it, because, more eyes just kind of help to make sure that the right information is being communicated. And the last thing is, after they've looked at it, we send it out. Now, this whole turnaround time, it can take about 3 days to create, including the review stage.
Hold on, Mark. So Sway, a Sway document, when you convert it to Sway, why don't you explain that for our listeners, if you don't mind?
So Microsoft Sway is something that we all have when we open up a Hotmail account. Now, if you already have, let's say, a 365 enterprise or business account, you already have Microsoft Sway. And Microsoft Sway allows you to convert easily Word documents. So basically, you can take any Word document that you have today and then convert it into Microsoft Sway. And it kind of acts as an online presentation of the material. It gives you, as you scroll through, it gives you the chunks of information in kind of like small installments until you get to the end.
Is it, so it's different than from like I guess Google or Microsoft 365 offers, Word in the cloud, but they also offer, like slides, for PowerPoints. So is this different than that?
It is part of the whole suite that you get, but you don't have to pay for Sway. Now, if you want additional features, like say, for example, you want to ensure that only certain readers are looking at your material, you can restrict access where they would have to log into Microsoft Sway in order to read the information. But if you have a Hotmail account, you have it already.
Okay, so it sounds like it almost provides you a landing page, more or less, a web presence where you can send a link to someone. Okay, and can you track using Sway who interacts with that link, and at how deep can you go?
So Microsoft Sway in the back end, once you created your document, it has a piece called Analytics. And this takes into consideration the duration it took for the learner to review that document. Not only that, but also how many people have kind of looked through that document. It gives you quite a few different pieces of information, at least. And the number of viewers, like say, for example, if I send a new document, a new microlearning to the call center, let's say it's 20 agents, I can see how many people have clicked on that link and gone to the site.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, very, very fascinating. I'm thinking, every company should be incorporating this. How did you get involved with learning about microlearning? Did you take a class or you stumbled upon it? Kind of enlighten me.
Well, I started looking at different things on YouTube, and
Okay.
then I did a course on Udemy that kind of
Yeah.
spoke a little bit about it. And then I started exploring, like, how could I implement this without investing too much into it? When I say investing too much into it, I'm talking about without going the route of an LMS course and all of those pieces that take time and they take a lot of effort.
Microlearning to microlearn
Yeah.
is what you're looking for.
Yes, that is right. That is right.
Wow. Okay. So is microlearning, you think, suitable for existing agents in the contact center or new hire training or all of the above?
Well, I use microlearnings in both situations, existing agents as well as new hire trainees. So when it comes to new hire trainees, I make sure that the trainee first has the basic and minimum knowledge for that course to make sense to them, because it's no use sending them about, information pertaining to this new panel when they don't know how to use the system or they've never heard about the system. So once they start taking calls, the new trainees, I send them out every week these micro-learning courses. So the agent is always learning. And so I don't overwhelm them with too much of information by sending it all out at once. And these topics can range from customer service, the difference between creating a CTN and transferring that ticket over to another department or transferring a call, because sometimes when you have new agents start taking calls, they don't know the difference between, okay, I need to transfer this call and I need to transfer this request, and they get confused between the two, or even how to request a refund.
Wow.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, do you have a course on Udemy on microlearning?
Well, not at this time. I am thinking about trying to create a course on call center training, but I want to make sure I get it right the first time and have all the information at least. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see this being really valuable for a call center who has agents that perhaps aren't on the phone all the time, and in between calls, maybe you push them a microlearning module. Do you have a solution of, I guess, choice, preference on anything that you've seen do anything like that? Almost like an e-learning,
like out of the box.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't, me personally, something that would create these courses. Is that right? Let me make sure that I understand.
Not create them. Once they're created, they would be pushed to the audience. So in this case, we're applying it to call centers because we live and breathe that world. Jessica and I. So in a call center where you have agents and the agent utilization, is essentially the calculation of how much time they actually spend on the calls. But then what are they doing in the meantime? So when they're in between calls, there's call center solutions out there that will push e-learning to their desktop in between calls. Sometimes it has something to do with a myriad of different topics. In any case, the idea is just to keep them busy, always learning in between calls, and then they would interrupt the call. Inbound call would interrupt those sessions, but that's the application.
Well, at this time, I haven't seen anything that has that capability of keeping track of an agent's activities, and that would push out different training courses, because I get it. I understand that you're paying the agent for an hour or whatever duration, And at this point, let's say, for example, if it's towards the end of the day and they're not getting that many calls, now you're still paying that agent and you want that agent to be even more productive and they start getting calls. But at this time, I haven't seen anything that would actually do that automatically.
They've been around for a while. I think I saw my first one in 2010. Knowledge, I think was the name of that company, but they're around. I just wanted to see if there was one that you recommended. But
sorry, nothing at this time.
That's great.
Besides the tool, what's the process? What's involved in like the process change? Is it a heavy lift, or it's pretty seamless because it's short bursts? And do you have any, not backlash, but pushback from maybe management or people trying to implement this?
So far, I haven't had any backlash or pushback from any of the call center leadership team. The reason why is because, one, you don't have the agents being pulled off the phones.
Right.
Secondly, there's that engagement because they're short. You're not pulling them into a training class for an hour or even half an hour, because even those half an hour training sessions that they say it's half an hour, they never tend to last half an hour.
Right, especially Q&A.
Yeah.
Depends on whether the company you're working for is publicly traded. Then they're an hour long each time.
Oh, yeah.
Quite frequently.
And multiple trainings per week. And I worked for a company a long time ago. It was like 2 1-hour trainings a week.
Oh my.
And I was in sales, and I'm like, and then we had other meetings, and half of the week was meetings and trainings.
Wow. That just makes it difficult to even do your regular duties.
Yeah. How am I going to do my job? I'm just sitting in meetings and trainings.
Yeah.
All the time. Well, awesome. This has been fascinating. Any final words, Mark?
I would say this. I know a lot of, based on some of the information that I see out there, I notice that a lot of call centers are trying to move towards web-based training, or WBTs housed in an LMS, and trying to move away from instructor-led, or also known as basically a trainer goes up and presents the information. Web-based training is good for a certain piece. Now, in order to train, you have to repeat the information again and again and again, and also retrieval methods such as testing or determining if they've understood that knowledge. With a web-based training, even though I've seen some really great ones out there that test the knowledge in between and throughout the course, and they have all of these different small little tricks here and there, and artificial intelligence and so on, I've noticed that the best way to train is always going to be instructor-led. And if your trainer has a strong knowledge, a strong experience from working on the phones and working with your type of call center.
And those instructors, can it be a video?
It could be, yeah.
It
could be
still the same. I mean, I know there's not as effective because it's not interactive, but would you say they're just as effective by and large for the most part?
Yeah, even if it's video, because what happens with instructor-led, the trainees can interact with that trainer, right? If you cancel out the interaction, your engagement tends to go down. And also you may not be able, like say, for example, if I get stuck, let's say I'm trying to learn accounting, but if I don't understand if I don't understand a certain concept and I keep moving on, I'm just losing everything as I move on because I don't know this one concept of accounting, let's say receivables or something like that. Or depreciating assets.
Yeah, I agree. Interesting. Well, Mark, where can people find you if they want to seek out your know-how and engage with you?
Your almighty advice. Don't you have a newsletter or something else? You're a fascinating writer and speaker.
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm always on LinkedIn. Folks can always message me or connect with me on LinkedIn.
And will you tell the audience your full name? I failed to do that. I apologize. Your full name. And
yeah, my full name is Mark Pereira. And I'm an on-site supervisor and trainer for Briljent. And yeah, definitely connect with me if you have any questions about microlearnings, how you can create these courses, or any other type of training training feedback if you're trying to find out. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure. I always love learning something for myself too.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it. And I hope my this discussion that we've had is going to benefit and help someone learn.
Awesome. Perfect. So do we. Well, thank you everyone for listening. We hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Contact Center Gurus podcast. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you next time.